Hello and welcome to Walker on the Wild Side. My name is Ben Walker and today we are talking about the most venomous animals in the world. Now the first thing we have to straighten out is the difference between venomous animals and poisonous animals. Now venom has to be injected into the other animal through the use of a stinger or that kind of thing, whereas poison is released onto or into the other animal. For example, when you eat something. They are very different things and not many people seem to understand that. So while researching all this information, it was quite difficult to find a definitive list as people just seem to mix the two together, but eventually I did get there. Now the next thing to sort out will be the strength of the venom and how I'm going to measure it. To do this, I'm going to be taking their LD50 values, which essentially means the lethal dose to kill 50% of a tested population. Obviously, I cannot test this venom on people or anything, so I'm taking the LD50 per kilogram and multiplying that to get their LD per 70 kilograms, or that's just over average weight for a human being. So the values that you see will be what it would take to kill 50% of humans weighing 70 kilograms. Now that we've got all that stuff sorted out, we can move on to the animals with the top 3 most venomous animals in the world. Coming in at number 3 is the eastern brown snake, which is found in areas of Australia and New Guinea. Now this is a highly venomous snake and is fairly aggressive. So it clocks in with a LD50 value per kilogram of between 36.5 or 50 micrograms. And when you multiply that by 70 to get your value per 70 kilograms, it does give you a result of 0.0026 to 0.0035 grams per 70 kilogram. That means a very, very small amount of venom would actually be needed to be a lethal dose. This is represented in the fact that these snakes are actually responsible for 60% of all lethal snake bites in Australia, which does go to show they are fairly aggressive with their biting. Now when you take into account the fact that a paperclip weighs roughly 1 gram, this tiny amounts of venom needed to cause a lethal dose is just staggering, really. And what makes it even worse is that even if it doesn't kill you, you're going to be going through convulsions and your blood's not going to be clotting correctly. It really is a very dangerous snake, best avoided if possible. Now, as these snakes are so dangerous, I should probably give you a little bit more information about them. They're not massive snakes. They do grow up to about 1.5 meters in length, which, compared to some pythons you see, is not much. And as you can imagine from the name, they are brown most of the time, though the colours and markings do vary quite a lot. Now, possibly the worst thing about this is they are normally found around farmland, as their favourite diet is mice, which is often found on farms. So if you happen to be going to Australia or New Guinea, you happen to see a mouse, if I were you, I would turn the other way, as there's probably a snake hunting it nearby. Now, as the IUCN Red List categorises them as least concern, they're going to be around for a while. So it's more of a live and make do situation than most. But as with all animals, we do have to protect them. They just don't need that much help, to be honest. Coming in at number 2 on the list is the inland taipan. This is another species of snake which is also found in Australia, which kind of just gives me the sense Australia isn't meant for people. And while its venom is stronger, with an LD50 of 25 micrograms per kilogram, which means that lethal dose for a 70 kilogram human is 0.00175 grams, which is once again basically nothing. This snake isn't quite as aggressive as the previous one. So while the bite does have a lethality rate of 80%, so if you're bitten, chances are death will happen within the next half an hour. It's much more likely to basically run away with its tail between its legs, if it had legs, that was. They are much shyer and they will only strike if there is no other option, basically, with most zookeepers thinking of them as quite placid creatures to work with. So considering the tiny amounts of venom needed to kill people, the average bite dosage for venom of this snake is 44 milligrams. When you compare that to the 1.7 milligrams needed to kill a 70 kilogram human, it does strike me as a little bit of overkill. But like I said, this snake is not as dangerous when you're thinking about it behaviour based. Now this snake is found in roughly the same kind of areas due to its rodent heavy diet, so it will eat mice mainly, but it will go anything up to a large rabbit or that kind of thing. It will literally eat anything it can wrap its mouth around. And these snakes do grow a little bit bigger, up to 1.8 metres long. But possibly my favourite thing about this snake is the fact that between the seasons its colourings actually change, which does make it slightly harder to identify, but nonetheless I think is pretty cool. So if you're out there and you see anything moving in the bush, I do suggest running, though chances are this snake will run before you. Once again, the IUCN Red List does characterise these snakes as least concern, so they're not going anywhere anytime soon unless us as humans do something absolutely catastrophic, which to be honest doesn't seem too far away. But it is still around, best avoid it if you can. So, the most venomous animal currently alive in the world today is the geography cone snail. I know it doesn't sound that threatening, and it certainly doesn't look that threatening. It only grows up to about 15 centimetres long, but this venom is absolutely lethal. There's a saying in the areas which is found, which is honestly pretty much everywhere, that you only have time to smoke a cigarette before you die. Obviously it's not quite that true, but it is fairly extreme venom. It is a lot more common as well than snakes. It's found all over the coasts around the Indo-Pacific Ocean basically. So if you're going in the water there, I would suggest being careful. Now this venom is very, very strong. It's got a LD50 of just between 12 and 30 micrograms per kilogram, which means to kill a human being, you would need roughly 0.00084 grams to 0.0021. So, once again, basically nothing. All of these animals are just terrifying, to be honest. But the fact that a snail is the most venomous, it did blow my mind a little bit while doing the research. Now, as you can imagine, these snails don't have massive fangs through which they can inject the venom. Instead, they have a extendable proboscis, which is basically a tubular mouthpiece kind of thing. And what they do is they fire a harpoon out, well, harpoon type thing, which is coated in venom. Now, you can imagine the doses would be a little bit smaller with this method of delivery, but considering how little venom is needed, it's easily enough. And considering that there's no cure currently, it is still fairly terrifying. The best you can hope for basically is that you live long enough for the venom to wear off, in which case some people have been stuck with food poisoning symptoms for the next 20 years. So either way, it's not a great outlook. Best avoid it if you can. However, as with most venoms, there is other uses to them. For example, one of the proteins found in the snail's venom is actually 10,000 times stronger than morphine with its pain-subduing elements. So it does offer very interesting avenues through there, but that's for better minds than me to figure out basically. And like I said, it is a lot smaller than the other animals, growing up to around 15 or 16 centimetres. That's both the body and the shell. And speaking of the shell, it's a kind of pink-red kind of mottled colour with splashes of white, very popular with collectors. Though if you do see a shell, definitely check there's not a snail inside it first. It has been noted that snails usually only use their venom for defence, so not inherently aggressive, but still they will try and eat small fish and all that kind of stuff. Now, like I said, they are found basically all over the Indo-Pacific coastline, going all the way along through Africa, the Red Sea, all the way underneath India and down to Australia, plus on some islands to the east of Australia as well. And once again, all the way up past China in the Pacific. So they are obviously very much everywhere. And with an IUCN Red List ranking of least concern, chances are they're going to be everywhere for still quite a while yet. So please do take care if you're going in the water out there, and try not to get bitten. Now, that is the top 3. However, an honourable mention must go to the sea wasp, which is a species of box jellyfish. Now that has an LD50 of about 40 micrograms per kilogram. So while it is fairly close to the lower limits for the eastern brown snake, the eastern brown snake does just edge it out. But I thought had to be included, which once again, they're everywhere in the southern hemisphere basically. Please be careful. Now obviously all venomous animals should be avoided to some degree, these 3 more than the others, but at the same time they must be protected. So please make sure you are doing your best to protect these animals to within your abilities. With the overwhelming message I'm getting here, it's basically just stay away from Australia. Seems like everything there wants to kill you, which is what I thought anyway. But if you have enjoyed this video, please do leave in the comments. Let me know something else you want me to research, that kind of stuff. And if you haven't enjoyed this video, then don't say anything.